The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which debuted on Prime Video, is one of the most highly anticipated and undoubtedly the most expensive shows of 2022. The Rings of Power is populated by elves, dwarves, Harfoots, and some humans, taking after the iconic Lord of the Rings series. But below their Middle-earthian garb, these fascinating figures are played by international actors and actresses. So, what do they look like in real life, and where do we recognize them from? First up, Morfydd Clark, who plays Galadriel. One of the main characters, the elf warrior Galadriel, is portrayed by Morfydd Clark. Cate Blanchett portrayed her in the Peter Jackson directed Lord of the Rings film trilogy, so some people may already be familiar with her. Elves are immortal, therefore they do not age, even though The Rings of Power is based around 3,000 years before the events in the films. The BAFTA-nominated performer Clark has previously played Caroline Bell in The Alienist and Sister Clara in His Dark Materials. She is a great actress who brings a lot to her role in Rings of Power. Furthermore, she is a blonde bombshell that is perfectly meant for this role. Next up, Robert Aramayo, who plays the character of Elrond. Fans of film trilogy The Lord of the Rings will probably also be familiar with this character. In Peter Jackson's film trilogy, Elrond was portrayed by Hugo Weaving. Robert Aramayo fills that character in The Rings of Power, and can we just say, he does a great job. Now, you may recognize his face from other roles, including when he played the youthful Ned Stark in the hit fantasy series Game of Thrones and an episode of Netflix's Mindhunter. Also, Charlie Vickers, who plays Halbrand. Halbrand is a fictional character that was developed for the Amazon series, but does not appear in the books. Apart from the fact that he encounters Galadriel when stranded on a raft, most likely following a shipwreck somewhere in between the sundering seas, not much is known about him. Now, in terms of the real-life face behind the character, Charlie Vickers is a relatively fresh figure in the entertainment industry. He made his acting debut in the historical drama Medici in 2018. His second TV persona in his career is from The Rings of Power. Now, he is undoubtedly a very handsome man who we can only imagine will land some great roles throughout his career. Next, Nazanin Boniadi, who portrays Bronwyn. Also not a character from J.R.R. Tolkien's writings, Amazon basically invented Bronwyn specifically for the Lord of the Rings Rings of Power. Due to this, we know very little about Bronwyn other than she is a village healer in Tirharad. However, given that she appears in all 8 show episodes, we must assume that Bronwyn has a substantial role to play. Viewers, though, anticipate in the second season to learn a lot about the character. Now, the actress, Nazanin Boniadi, who played her, has been in episodes of Grey's Anatomy, How I Met Your Mother, and Hotel Mumbai, so you may recognize her from those hit shows. Finally, Benjamin Walker, who plays the character of High King Gilgalad. Gilgalad, who holds the position of ultimate power among elves, is the last High King of the Elves of the West, and, together with King Elendil, leads the elves in battle against Sauron in the last alliance of elves and men. After appearing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Netflix series Jessica Jones, Benjamin Walker takes on this regal role, dressed in golden armor. Before that, he hadn't been in many movies, but he played the president in the horror fantasy movie Abraham Lincoln: Vampire Hunter. Speaking of the popular series, can we expect a second season? What do we know so far? The Rings of Power successfully concluded its debut season. Gandalf's reveal and Sauron's identification were just 2 of the many events that took place at the climax. Now, with Sauron's return and his eyes set on Middle-earth, there is undoubtedly a storm brewing. But when will we find out the answers to all of the cliffhangers left for us? Here is all of the information we currently have about the Rings of Power second season. So, is there a release date? Although season 2 of the Rings of Power is in filming, no release date has been set. On October 20th of 2022, filming started. It's improbable that the second season's filming schedule will take 18 months to complete. This season, not only is production largely free of COVID delays, but Amazon Studios president Jennifer Salk has intimated that the new season requires a quicker turnaround. Even if we cannot anticipate exactly what that implies for Rings of Power Season 2, we would be astonished if production wasn't finished by the middle of 2023. We may anticipate an early 2024 release date if that's the case, along with all the post-production that comes with it. Given Amazon's apparent aim to keep the the Middle-earth pipeline running significantly faster than it has in the past, late 2023 is also a remote possibility. Do we know anything about the plot? Very big things are expected from the second season, like in the hopes of learning more about the stranger's real identity. Nori and he have currently traveled to Rune. New characters will also likely join the franchise because of their trip. Additionally, a conflict with Sauron is quickly approaching, but first Uruk-Adar, the renegade Daylight, must face this enemy. And if memory serves, Sauron made his way to Mordor, where Adar and his orc friends were enjoying themselves following their recent victory and expulsion of the Southlanders. Sauron told Galadriel that Mordor would be an excellent place to begin governing Middle-earth. Galadriel, speaking of, is still reeling after discovering Halbrand's true identity. She had confided in him and trusted him, but he abused that trust. There is no words to describe how she feels towards him now. She will undoubtedly continue to hunt for Sauron's blood in the most terrible ways. In the climactic scene, Galadriel, Elrond, and Celebrimbor forged 3 rings out of their meager supply of mithril to preserve the elf people. According to Tolkien's lore, one will ultimately come across Gandalf, although it will take a while. He must first determine who he is. What about the cast members? Who will be returning? Although several cast members are anticipated to return, no official casting statement for season 2 has been announced. Even though there are time jumps in the series, recasting won't be a problem because many of the characters are practically eternal. Dexerto now maintains a list of all the significant characters and the actors who play them, which you can view here. Even though 2 of these characters appear to be dead by the end of season 1, everyone can return for season 2. The cast of the elves will soon include a new member named Círdan, according to the production, albeit the part still needs to be filled. Now, if you can't wait for the second season to drop, here are some shows to hold you over. First up, The Wheel of Time. One of the top shows on Prime Video has swiftly emerged as The Wheel of Time. It is definitely in the same realm as The Rings of Power, with a lengthy plot and a cast of endearing characters who go off on an epic journey. Additionally, it involves a conflict between both the forces of good and evil who are vying for global supremacy. This fantasy series, which has already been given the green light for 2 seasons, invites viewers to lose themselves completely and is a must-watch. And of course, this list wouldn't be complete without Game of Thrones. One of HBO's top TV shows is Game of Thrones. It is firmly rooted in the epic fantasy genre, but also explores the nature of power and the lengths to which individuals will go to get more of it. It has an enormous scope that is sure to appeal to the lovers of the Rings of Power, with its dragons and numerous noble houses vying for dominance. It also demonstrates the ability of fantasy as a genre to raise important issues regarding the real world, how it functions, and why people act in certain ways. Now, House of the Dragon is another must-watch. House of the Dragon, a prequel offshoot of Game of Thrones, still has a lot to prove, but it has already demonstrated its willingness to forge its own course. It is a dark, moody tale, examining the halls of royal power and its abuse, focusing on the regal Targaryens as their dynasty breaks apart. For dedicated fans of The Rings of Power, it has a lot to offer. It particularly focuses on a world that is on the verge of a significant transformation that will almost certainly leave everyone hurt and damaged. And finally, Shadow and Bone is a great watch. Hugely, Netflix has entered the world of epic fantasy television, and the show, Shadow and Bone, is a clear example of this. This is very much an epic, like so much of Tolkien's writing, and it centers on Alina Starkov, a remarkable young person with a special talent that has the potential to change the world. Like all great fantasy, the story concentrates on Alina's hero's journey, as well as the greater ethical and philosophical issues that she must grapple with as she finds herself sucked deeper and deeper into a battle that is much, much bigger than herself. Unfortunately, guys, that is all the time we have for today. So make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, thanks for watching.